Okay, this is all about Christine and her love of improv because she called Improv and Other Drugs. Christine Brooks.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you about improv, which is my drug of choice. A drug, as you can see from the World Health Organization, is something that alters your normal bodily function when you imbibe it. And that's what I'm going to talk to you tonight, because that's what improv does. So this started for me when I was not cast as Dorothy in the Heaton Intermediate production of The Wizard of Oz, and instead was cast as Auntie Em, which was kind of crushing for a 12-year-old. I had dreams and they were squashed. So I decided I'd go and join an improv group, which where you got to make up your own stories and nobody could miscast you as Auntie Em. And as Picasso says, I got to play and make my own stories up, and this was an incredible kind of freedom. And this was my first taste of the improv crack, which I like to call pure creation, which apparently to me means carrying the moon around in a boat on a lake. And it was incredibly exciting. And from there, I started using on a regular basis. That's the Court Theatre, my first crack house. It's not looking so good these days, which is very sad. But I was there like every week watching shows and training. Until I got to university. When I went into rehab, I decided to quit, and I said, no more improv, I've got to get serious with my life. And I started studying law and political science and cleaning up, and I said goodbye to improv. Although I did join the debate club for a while, and I think you can agree that was a good choice. I should have known when I spent more effort trying to get Thomas the Tank Engine coordinated uniforms for our debating team than the actual debates, that maybe this wasn't my true calling. So yeah, I cleaned up real good. I graduated. I was like, yes, I'm a serious girl with this serious degree, and I'm going to get a serious job. So I went to a serious city, which was Wellington, and got myself my first job. And I worked for the public service, which did actually involve quite a bit of saying of yes, minister, and it was pretty serious, and I got to do a lot of things, but it wasn't quite enough, and I started using again. I went to a show by the Wellington Improv troupe and started back on my improv crack habit, and that's signified by rainbows and crazy-looking giraffes. That's what happens when you Google LSD, by the way. And I realised what I loved about improv, it was this creativity, the sheer creativity that I wasn't getting anywhere else. And it was a place where I could make mistakes and actually be embraced for that, because that's what improv is all about. And in fact, in improv, we have something called the circus bow. And that's when a performer in a circus gets up and they talk up what they're going to do, and then they do the trick, and sometimes they succeed and sometimes they fail. But regardless, they get up at the end and they go, ta-da, like that. And so actually, everybody on your feet, we're going to do this all together. Quite serious, yep. So on the count of 3, everyone's going to yell out at the top of their voice, I failed, and then go ta-da, okay? 1, 2, 3. I failed, ta-da! Isn't that freeing? You can sit down, thank you. Wonderful. And by allowing yourself to fail and make mistakes, that actually becomes the path to real creativity. And this is kind of addictive. When you get to a place where you're allowed to be yourself and you're allowed to do whatever you want, and you're allowed to tell stories, and it doesn't always have to be right, amazing things happen. And I'm sure a lot of creatives in the audience will understand that often their most creative discoveries come when they make mistakes. Now, meanwhile, by night I was doing this incredible, exciting improv creation, but by day I was still in a job where I was spotting risks for a living and finding about 50 different ways that I could say no to people. And I suddenly realized that these things didn't add up. By day I was spotting risks, and by night I was creating. And so I quit my job, and I said goodbye to the public service and hello to a world where I got to to do innovating and creating for my job. And I started pushing my drug. And now I teach improv theatre. I teach it to organisations to help them communicate and collaborate better, to be more creative and innovative. And I teach it to anyone that will listen, really. So, and the thing that I love about improv is I think we're all innately creative people, and it's actually just finding a way to let that creativity out. And for me, improv is the way to do that. You get up there and you make mistakes and wonderful, crazy things happen. And so I still have that from my very first taste of the improv drug. I still carry the moon around in my little dinghy and make up crazy stories with a whole group of wonderful people, and that's why improv is my drug.